Hello there. This is my presentation for my honours project report. So in this presentation, I'll be talking about why I've chosen to do this project, what I'll be implementing and how I'll be testing it and the reasons why I'll be testing it this way. And also coming up to some conclusions and seeing what future work can be done from this project. So the question that I pose for this is, do certain filming and editing techniques affect the quality of a video after repeated compressions? So one of the main questions that I had before diving into this topic even further, and one of the questions that I get asked the most when I'm talking about this is, what is video compression? I feel like this is summed up pretty well in this quote from a LifeWire article back in 2020. The goal of compression is to get the smallest file without the loss of picture and or sound data being noticeable. While this is a very strong and succinct way to put it, it's not always the case. As you can see in these two images, the one on the left is the original photograph, and you can see that it's very bright. There's lots of details, especially in the branch. It's vibrant. And on the image on the right, it's not too much of a difference, but there's some very clear differences in the quality of it. Like the background is very pixelated. The branch and the feathers on the bird don't have much detail. It's not as colorful and bright. So this is an example of how compression on any medium, such as image or audio or video, can have negative consequences. So the main aims and objectives of the project is just to see to which extent video compression has on video quality and see what can be done to try and avoid lower quality of video after repeated compressions. One of the ways that I'll hopefully be able to fix this is to discover which filming and editing techniques affect video quality positively or negatively, and to see if we can change that and try and see if there's any other ways to test this. So implementation. The way that I was going to implement my project was to create this minute-long short film on Aberdeen, sort of inspired by like Scottish tourist board advertisement types. And basically I wanted to put in as many filming and editing techniques that would show off lots of contrast within it, and just hopefully prove that certain techniques affect video quality and affect poor video quality more than others. So some of the techniques that I want to put in here, I'm going back to this example of the picture of the bird. As you can see in the original photo, there's a lot of bright colors and vibrancy and lots of saturation within the picture, and that's something that I want to include there. And also lots of contrast within the frame, like light and dark, as you can see from this example of a scene from Game of Thrones, which has been uploaded to YouTube. You can see anywhere where there's fire on the screen that around it, it's very kind of blocky and pixelated. And also depth of field. This is quite an obvious one, but also not in the same way, because it's more of a photography technique. But as you can see, like the picture of the flowers, or just any picture with depth of field picture with something that's in the front of the view, whatever's in the background is going to be totally blurred. So after I spent about a week of filming, I managed to collect quite a lot of clips. However, I had to condense it down to about a minute, so that when I was testing it, I don't want to, bore the viewer, as I was planning to do a user testing survey. So once I'd created sort of a priority shortlist of what to include and discovered which order I wanted to put them in, and also add a few editing techniques like create some transitions and do some slow motion on one of the shots, which I found was very effective straight off the bat, because on this clip it became very stuttery when I slowed it down quite a lot. So here is the finished product. So as you can see, there's a lot of different techniques that's used there, and I feel like they're used in a very slick way. So the next step was to actually compress the videos. So the strategy in which I would do this was to upload the original to YouTube, which would put a H.264 codec on it, which is sort of the industry standard of video compression. And what I would do is I would download that original video and re-upload it as many times as I needed to until there was a noticeable difference that I could use for a second video and a third video, which was about doing that process about 15 times each until I noticed like a difference, a stark difference in the video quality that I could use for the testing. So for the testing, I wanted to show off two very different ways of testing the three videos. One by using just everyday participants and using the human eye, and also using a technological image quality measure like PSNR. So for the survey, I wanted to present the three videos to a user and sort of base the questions around the human techniques of the human visual system, which was to ask the user about their surroundings and how that's affecting what they're viewing. So ask them about where they're watching it, what the lighting's like, and what quality, like which resolution they're watching the videos at. So one of the first and the most simple questions I asked them was to rate the quality of the three videos out of 10, which, as you can see, it's shown an incremental drop from the first video. As you can see, most of them were watching the video in pretty good lighting. And I also asked them, just in sort of a comments bit, to comment about what differences they noted. This was the differences they noted between the first and second videos, which is quite vague, but also pretty informative of what the differences were. Whereas when I asked them to note the differences of all three videos, you can see how negative the feedback on the third video is, and noticing how blurry and blocky it is, and it's totally pixelated, especially in its unbright lights. So the second way in which I would test the videos was to calculate some PSNR values. PSNR stands for peak signal to noise ratio, and it's pretty much the standard way to calculate the quality of an image, especially when using a H.264 codec. So what this would do is it would calculate the same frames of each of two different videos, which were the first and the second videos and the first and third videos. So as you can see, it gave me a lot of data, as there would be around 1800 frames in one video. So this was calculating the PSNR of the first and second videos. And the one on the bottom here is the PSNR of the first and third videos. As you can see, there's not too much difference between the two. Like the top value, it's 14.95, whereas in the comparison of first and third values, it's 14.998. So not a huge amount of difference, and it kind of follows that pattern for all of the frames. So when I was trying to plot some graphs here, obviously it was quite a lot of data to process, so I wanted to find a way that would sort of condense it all down into something that was a lot easier to understand and something that kind of corresponded with the survey that I did and some of the questions in there. So what I did was to see which frames aligned with which scenes in the film and calculate a sort of average PSNR score for each of them, which, as you can see, it's much easier to read and also gives us quite a lot of useful information, which I'll show later on. First of all, just to note, the higher the PSNR value, the better the quality of the compressed image, which you can see here that there's quite a lot of difference between some of the videos, like specifically the first scene, the intro, whereas the depth of field, the images of the rocks, has clearly been compressed quite well. It's not affected the video quality too much in all three of the videos, whereas in the very next scene, the flickering lights against the sort of dark stony brick background, it's clearly not compressed very well, and that's very noticeable. So this sort of corresponds with a question in the user survey where I asked the user to choose as many of the scenes in the video where they noticed an especially noticed difference in the video quality. So if you look at the top half of the screen and the comparisons between the first and second videos, there's quite a lot of the scenes that line up. Like, for example, the intro, not a lot of people have chosen it, and it sort of corresponds with the PSNR saying that's one of the better compressed images. Whereas this might not really correspond with the Bridge of Dee scene, which has a much lower PSNR score, but it's, well, it's not the lowest PSNR score, but it's not really lining up with what the user sees, which is apparently the most affected scene in the film, according to all of the responses. And this also is kind of the same in the comparison between the first and third videos. It shows how much of a dip there was in the video quality, that pretty much all of the scenes between all three videos got chosen a lot more than just for the first two. But this basically kind of corresponds to the PSNR scores. So in conclusion, you can see that there's a huge effect of what video compression does on video quality, especially in regard to some filming techniques. Like, you can see that flashing lights and images with lots of saturation and contrast don't do too well once a video compression codec has been put on them, but there are some which can be used to good effect, like depth of field and like just images that have a lot of clarity in them. Personally, if I was to do anything different after, if I was to do this project again, would be to make sure there's a much clearer difference in video quality between the three videos, because as you could see from the PSNR scores, it was very similar between the first and second videos and the first and third videos. So this is hopefully something I'll try to test again and maybe try to change. It might stay the same, but it's something that I would hopefully get a different response from. And yeah, as you can see, there's a lot to be learned from this type of project, and